Hi everyone, my name is Brian. I'm here doing another instructional taping video. This one is going to be for rifle. I've done one in the past and I went back and watched it and just realized none of the important moments were in frame, so I'm going to make sure they're in frame this time. I've got my great assistant Izzy here. Say hi. She's good. Let's talk about materials real quick. Most of the time when you get a brand new rifle, it's going to be put together for you. I've already taken things apart just to save a little time, but in the event you already had a gun and you untaped everything, one thing I wanted to point out was a little Goo Gone goes a long way to make sure your surface is completely clean. Use a paper towel with some Goo Gone on it, wipe it off, and then make sure you take a paper towel with some soap and water and clean it off so it's just not sticky on you. So I've got my rifle. You're going to want to make sure you have your bolt, doesn't matter what color, and the screws that go into the bolt. In the event that your bolt the screw has been scripted, some toothpicks go a long way. You can put the bolt back together, put one toothpick down inside, and then take a screw that is roughly 1.5 to 2 inches, like so, and you can drill it back inside and it will take form with the toothpick and it'll work for you, so you don't have to do that tape method that goes around the bolt, right? All right, make sure you have your strap, doesn't matter what color, depending on what your group likes to use. On the strap, I will tape something here in a second, but make sure that the swivels at the end, they have their screws as well. I've already got those separate. And then white and black tape for sure. I personally have a green roll here. I'm gonna make a green spotter. I like the spotters just to look a little different, but still kind of blend. That's just a personal choice. Strapping tape. You want packing, it's called packaging tape, and I got this from Office Depot. You want to make sure that the tape has threads. The threads that are, the packaging tape that does not have threads has a tendency that if the wood were to split, like so, it has the ability to slice that tape and rip off. Those threads keep the tape's integrity, and so it will give you longevity for your rifle. So just make sure you find the straps with the thread in it. Probably not going to find it at Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart, to be honest, so an office supply store would be your best bet. I personally like using the drill. It's easier than using a screwdriver. I get all hot and sweaty and I don't like to have to worry about all that. And then a pair of scissors if you really want to make sure all your tape lines are cut flat versus pulling them. In my other video for flag, I did pull the tape just because that one was a quick, easy, we're good to go. For the rifle and the saber video, I would suggest using scissors here just to give it a nice good clean line that tape won't pull. All right, so let's get started. First thing, once you've got your clean rifle, go ahead and take your strapping tape and you want to strap the 4 impact points that are gonna take the most wear and tear and get beat up a lot. And that's going to be the nose, roughly about a fist width from the tip. Part of the barrel where the swivel exists, there's this little hole right here that already was taken out. We're gonna cover about 3 inches from either side of it. And then the body of the gun, you wanna go roughly 3 to 4 inches past the neck, the smallest point, and about 3 to 4 inches past the edge of the bolt and barrel connection. So roughly that much. And then you wanna cover the butt. Butt cover should be about your fist as well, so about 4 fingers, 3 to 4 inches depending on. That prevents us from having to tape the entire gun and adding extra weight with all the tape. So utilizing those 4 little areas, it will give you a good longevity to the protection of the gun, but also keep it on a light side and not as heavy. So there are many ways to do this. This is not the end all be all. This is the way that has given me the most longevity with the rifle that I have had in my life. So here's what you want to do first. This one requires a little bit of yoga, because you're going to want to have to hold the rifle in some interesting ways. I always put it between my feet to give it a little bit of a secureness. I would cut the strapping tape all the time. You're not going to want to rip it. It does not rip like duct tape. And you want to make a crisscross on the nose of the gun. I go left to right first, and then you'll have these little flaps. Just push them down, both on the top and the bottom first, and that will give you those 2 little wings on the edge. Hopefully that wasn't too close. And then those wings, they'll just fall down on the top and the bottom. Do that again. And on this cut, make it just a little bit longer, because the nose from top to bottom is longer width-wise than the width. Top on first, flaps down, go up to the top and push down. It does give you what looks like a nice little rectangle present appeal. And then go ahead and take your strapping tape And for those that don't know, the strapping tape, the harder you pull, the more you sweat, the longer your gun will last. I go right on the edge of the nose. Use your own hand heat to push the adhesive down. And then utilizing whatever you can, I use my legs because I've got good grip with it. Pull as tight as you can. The more you hear the tape make that sound, the longer it'll last. Once you think you've gone far enough, and I'm gonna go probably one more rotation, watch the outside line. Let me actually get there real quick. This outside line, as you can tell, it's starting to twist to the left. Just give it a good pull on that left side. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna collect a little bit of this tape, make this line your vertical flat line, loop all the way around, and then with just a little press of your palm, that big bubble that existed, you can flatten out. And just keep rotating the same way that you were rotating the tape originally, and you get a nice good taped nose right there. So now let's move down to the barrel. Find where this little hole was for the swivel and take your tape. I keep the nose on the left and on the top part, excuse me, and there's a reason for this, I'll explain in 1 second. On the top part, I put the edge of the tape even with the hole. So it'll protect it on that side the same width as the tape as does the left. Now, the bottom of the barrel is flat, so as you loop around with the tape, it's gonna keep the tape not moving. If you start on the top of the gun, it's going to move based on this angle, and because the bottom has that angle, it's gonna start turning back to the left. You want it to go down toward the actual barrel. So, same rules as before, pull as tight as you can. It'll start to turn on its own, and right now I'm 2 turns in and I'm already at the hole for the swivel, and that is right there in case you cannot see it. Once you get to this moment, use the right side, which is closest to the barrel, and twist the tape the direction you want it to go, which is nice and vertical and flush. That little wing right there, it'll get pushed down when you put the electrical tape on it, so don't worry about it. But the more that you can push down with the palm of your hand, excuse me, and use the heat from your hand, the better and smoother it'll be. Once you've designated that angle, loop around once, and then give it a nice good cut. And again, rotate along with the tape, and you have a nice good smooth surface. Body, left to right would be next. I like to go back to it because I want to do the butt first because the butt is the exact same as the nose. And here's how we're going to do that. Do the long side first. This one requires a little bit of, you got to measure it first. You want about 2 or 3 inches past the butt on either side. You rotate flat. And make sure you cover the entire butt pad. That'll keep it protected. And as you can see, I'm gonna actually come to the camera. The edge of the butt pad has taken some hits in the past, as you can tell. But given the tape that we put on it, it had longevity to it. It was able to keep it protected. Some of the small little wood grains on the end, because that's where it was hitting the ground and whatnot, they did come off when I pulled the tape off, but it's still there and we're all good. Everyone meet Addison. Hi. Meow. I know. Hello. Addison's mama here in the household. She's coming to check things out. She likes to be in the know. So same as the tip, pull the top and bottom down. It's not gonna be like taut tight, but pull it as tight as you can. Push the flaps down on the sides, and then that gives you these 2 little wings like you would see on a birthday present or a Christmas present, and push those down on the side of the foam pad. Now, to do the crisscross action like we did before, you're gonna do it twice. So this one again is probably one where you wanna just put it right next to it and measure, eyeball if you will, and split the difference. Bye. She's out. She's like, this is boring. And so you get something that looks like this. It's okay if they don't completely overlap. You're gonna cover it when we loop it around. So it doesn't need to have like 3 different layers there. You're just adding more weight to it, so don't worry about that. But then as you can see, I've done years of practice. I cut these as long as the swivel hole right there, which is about 2 to 3 inches. If you got a gun that doesn't have that already put in, you can take this guy, just pull down about 2 inches, and that's roughly where it should start. So you have enough handle grip and you're not touching anything past the swivel. That's a rough estimate. And then the strap will just go where it's supposed to go, which should be, give or take, if you look from end of bolt to the tip, it should be roughly 60%, and that's right here, okay? So 60% to it, about 40%. Those are rough guesstimates, they're close. It's all dependent on once it's put together, how it will rotate on its own, and that's hand placement. That's a whole nother video for a different day. All right, so going back to the butt. The top of the butt is flat. The bottom of it has this curve that's already started. So in order to make this look as clean as many people want it, start with the overlap headed across the bottom, and you want this as flush to the edge of the butt as possible. And so roughly about this much, because watch what happens. You're gonna pull this around the bottom of the butt as tight as you can, and because of how it is cut, it's going to want to pull the left. Go ahead and pull it to the right so it stays flush with the edge. Little wrinkles, no big deal. Now, you're ready to pull. Again, pull tight. If you are not sweating by now, you should be, okay? Pull this all the way down to the edge. One last time, keeping it nice and flush with the edge of the butt so we get a good clean line. And now it's going to start to turn on you. If it pulls to the right, pull it to the left. If it pulls to the left, all good. No matter what you do, by the time you get back to the top of the butt, you do want this outside line to already be headed on the angle, and that's roughly halfway. And so this little wrinkle will exist down here on the edge. Again, smooth it out with your hand, and once we cover it with electrical tape, it will not be an issue. Pulls all the way down. That angle that you dictate should get all the way around and cover up the swivel hole. And now what magically happens is it crisscrosses back toward where it came from. Once you get to the top, cut this. We're not done, but it is the first layer. And that gives you a good protection on the first 2 inches from the edge of the butt. Do that again. So, same rules. Locate the bottom of the rifle, put it away from you. Put the roll near the top, which is the most flat. And this is where you just want to move it out until you are at your 4 or 5 inches. For mine, because it's over wear and tear, I've added a little extra. You don't have to go as far, but so long as the swivel hole is underneath this tape, you're in good territory. Don't go too far past it. So now, fix the flap. Flap's gonna pull down and it's gonna angle, and that is okay. The goal here is once you loop, this will be nice and flat coming all the way down to the bottom. And now it will pull back and crisscross one more time. Now, if you can see, there is this angle that already exists because of the gun. It's going to go exactly there. Don't let it. So give it a little bit of a tug because you've already protected those 2 inches. You want to make sure these 2 inches are good. Flush that down. Come back around one last time. And I always like, once I do the bottom part of the gun, that's where my cut point is, just so I know I didn't do too much. Once you have 1.5 to 2 revolutions of tape, you're good. Any more than that, you're just adding more weight. I wouldn't advise it. If you want to, or someone has asked you to do it, go for it. I just know that's not gonna work here for me. This will keep it nice and protected, and it's not gonna add too much weight to it. All right, so now let's go to the body. The body works the same way, a lot of pull and tug, a lot of sweat. So, about 3 inches from pull and twist. Make sure you get one good revolution before you start to twist down. And then roughly by the time you make one full revolution, you should be about halfway or past halfway on the actual tape that you started with. And in about 2 or 3, I did it in 2, you should be hitting where the bolt is, and let's talk about that. This is cumbersome and people hate it, and I get that. I would take, once you get to the bolt, 3 or 4 inches, chop it. The good thing with the strapping tape, putting it in pieces, it's not going to hurt it. A lot of people say keep it all intact. That's fine. The manipulation of the second piece and where you position it will keep it so it works just the same. I like to pull this guy back where he came from and roughly over the top of the barrel, and then just smooth this out. All of this is going to exist under the bolt, excuse me, so just kind of poke it down. And if it's too pokey, you can do a little snip snip and it'll lay pretty flush for you. From here, same rules. You kind of want to go back where we just were. So don't start on the actual side of the barrel. Do what we've done on the nose and the butt. Put it and let it go past. So it's going to look something like this. And the angle, test it out. From the first time you did the strapping tape, if the angle's starting to be like too angly, change it. So I'm going to adjust mine just a little bit so it doesn't revolutionize, down too quickly. Pull this back over the top of the barrel, push that all down. That'll all get smushed with the bolt, and the tighter you tighten it with the drill, it'll all be good. The first time you pull around, ideally, it would land flat on this flat part right here underneath the bolt, and then you're good to just keep going. As you can see on mine already has a nice good slice through it. I've had this gun for a little bit. The tighter you pull, the longer this will last, so it doesn't matter that it has an issue going on. Sweating is your friend. I always believe that the tighter you pull, the less tape you have to use. And if it starts to twist too much, like mine is, I'm having to pull it back a little bit and I'm getting a small amount of bubbles. Flatten them out. The more heat press you have from your body to the gun through the tape, the better. And, good moment here, if you don't like the angle of the tape, instead of starting back over, when you have this moment right here where you're going from side of the bolt, twist it. Because it does not matter what this looks like underneath. No one's gonna see, no one's the wiser. And then you can make the angle be exactly what you want it to be. And for anyone that's OCD like me, it's very satisfying. All right, so now we're getting to the neck. The neck is going, because of how it concaves, it's gonna take the strapping tape all different amount of ways, like this. First time you get to the neck, it's gonna open up this little valley. That's okay. It happens every time. Go around the neck once, and instead of going back where you came from, keep going. So give it a little pull. It will make some wrinkles underneath the neck, and that is okay. Anyone that says it's not okay, it's a little bit much, it happens. It's tape, all right? And so now, as you can tell, it's making these spaces in between the tape show up even more so. This is where I would cut it, just underneath the neck the second time. And if you can see where I used to have this tape, the tape went all the way to here. So I'm gonna eventually cover this up, this little angle out, not a big deal. All right, so go back where we just came from the first time that this kind of opened up, which should be roughly around the edge of the bolt, if not into the neck. Check your angle. You can see what's happened, change it. So you wanna make it a little shallower. I like to cover the spot that we're getting to in a little bit of 3-4 inches excess, smooth it around. This can go one of two ways. You can pull the left or you can pull the right. We've already done the barrel, so don't pull to the right. Pull, if not straight on, a little to the left. Smooth those bubbles out. And now you're gonna go around the neck a second time. This is nothing but helpful. The neck takes the most impact wherever it hits on the nose or the butt, and this, because it's the most shallow, can break the most often. Same thing kind of happens. Once you get to where you think you're gonna stop it, give it a good clip, because we wanna make this nice and flush, and to do that, we need to do one last tape. All right, doesn't matter which way you do it. I prefer taking the actual tape and having it be on the top of the barrel. I'm gonna rotate this way so we can see it. Just because this is the flattest of the two without it angling the actual tape. So, place that right there. What's gonna happen is when you pull this tape around, it is going to morph outbound. For me, I take this little triangle that is going to annoy me, and I slice it on the angle. Just cut that much off. And then when you pull this flat, it gives you roughly the same vertical line that we're about to cover it when we go over the tape again. Pull this accordingly to make it as flush as you want, like so. Again, it comes around the back and it is going to pitch. So another angle cut. Let's do that. It's pretty good. You could do another piece of tape right here. I don't think you need to. It really depends on, I want to say, your skill level. If you're gonna be just starting rifle and you feel like it's gonna be dropping a lot, put another piece just to protect it. You want to invest in your gun, right? You don't have to get another one in a year. But this is enough for the intermediate advanced student because it's got enough protection on that biggest breaking point and it's not going to add too much weight to your gun. A good way to test, along the while as you do the strapping tape and then the electrical tape and then you put all the bolts and straps on, check your balance point. The balance point is somewhere underneath your bolt, and so long as you're roughly in the middle, your tape is pretty even. If it does, and I'm gonna move my finger accordingly, if it does this, it's very butt heavy. You put a lot of tape over here, you can do one of two things. You can take some of it off, or if you feel good with it, add more to the barrel or the nose. Same rules apply if you are seeing that happen. You've got a lot of tape over here on the barrel, either add more to the butt or take some off. Play with it, it's different for everybody, okay? But roughly in the middle of the bolt, balance pretty well. We're gonna do the same thing with the white electrical tape now. For a rifle, most of the time you can do this one's a little wonky, let's get a different one. You can do this with one brand new roll of white tape for 2 guns, roughly. So if you are in a money crunch, split the roll with your friends, about $5, $6. These I would always suggest getting from Lowe's or Home Depot. Walmart, God love them, they don't sell the right kind of this tape and it doesn't have a good protection for your gun. It's gonna get gummy sooner than you think. So I would suggest Lowe's or Home Depot. All right, so for the nose and for this, I am going to cut this with my scissors, unlike my flag. I don't know why, but because. Make a plus sign, top and bottom. Go over about 1 inch on both sides. Smooth that out so you get something that looks like that. And now make a multiplication sign. So go over your corners. And you could do that either way. You could do the corners first, it doesn't matter. One thing that I do love about this is, again, this is just the way that I have morphed to tape equipment based on all of my teachers. Use what works for you. If it doesn't work for you, don't use it. This part usually goes pretty fast once you get familiar with it. Bye, Izzy, she's out. Starting at the edge, doesn't matter which side, but because I've done this for a while, I can feel it. It never hurts to rotate the gun so you know you're getting a straight line every single time. But once you get comfortable with it, after you do the first loop, index finger, cover half of the tape, because it's not gonna change angle on you underneath. But that is up once you feel ready for it. It's fine if it takes a while. And there's your nice good nose. All those bubbles that existed, they'll smooth themselves out. The harder you pull with this guy, and the more you cut it and allow it to lay flush versus pulling it, it'll slide, the nicer it'll look, okay? All right, I'm gonna move to the butt real quick and then I'll come back to the barrel. Doesn't matter the order, all works the same. For the butt, here's what I like to do. Send a long piece of tape down the length, top to bottom. Whoop, don't twist, thank you. And then I do the exact same thing just on the top, so it has a little bit of overage on the edge of the foam pad. Something like that. Hope that's visible. Do it one more time. And it's different each time. It depends on how you look at it. I'm gonna do one more piece of tape down the middle. It just kind of cleans both those 2 lines up, and an extra layer right there never hurts, in all honesty. And now the same thing happens as we did the nose, but here is a good stopping point. Your swivel hardware, these two little silver guys that go into the actual barrel. Take your drill or screwdriver, whatever you got, and you should be able to still see the holes that existed when you took this apart. And go ahead through the strapping tape, just put them in 1/2 inch. There we go. Couple reasons. First, there's no guessing game once you put the electrical tape on where these go now. Second, you can take the electrical tape on either side of it, tape it, and then when you're ready to attach your strap, pull this out, the tape will still be there so you can see where the hole is, and then layer it if necessary and plug it right back in, you're all good, okay? All right, so for the butt, I do the same thing that I did with the strapping tape. So with the top toward you, lay it flush with the edge of the butt and let it loop just a little bit underneath. The first time I go around, I wanna make sure I get a straight line. And then from here, start to angle. So watch how this works with the screw. You're gonna come around, cover roughly half of it. When you get close to the screw, like right there, I could go right up next to it. I don't want to yet. I'm gonna do one more revolution because I want it to almost lay on the screw like so. So when I pull that out, it'll cover it up. And now, I'm gonna turn this. I take the next one and I go right next to the other side. So the screw is just in between those two pieces. And then you can keep the revolution going. I like to now look at this one just because the tape, you've altered the angle just to make sure it's laying flush. I would rotate it. And again, once you feel comfortable, you don't have to rotate, you can just do it in spot. Once I've established my final line, I send it back up to the top of the gun. That was a little wonky, let's fix it, there we go. And then give it a good snip. Again, kind of pull it, let it lay on its own, and then you can smooth it out, and that should not move anymore for you. It might move a little bit, it might make a little residue, it's okay. Back to the barrel, same thing. Start near the nose. I like to have the electrical tape go past the strapping tape about the width of the electrical tape, just a little bit, just to overage, if you will. Loop on around. Same thing here, once you get to the screw, let it lean just a little bit. I'm gonna rotate it so it covers everything. Go to the other side, it'll lean a little bit as well, and then I can complete this out. See. All right, the body, when you do electrical tape, real easy. There's no extra cutting like we did with the strapping tape. You're just gonna go all the way. Again, it's very malleable, so you can rotate it how you deem necessary. Start with the gun as if we were right flat. Just looking at me. Pull around. Again, a little bit of overage. My OCD, I have to line this up so there's no like definitive, I don't know where the tape starts. It's an illusion, right? And then twist accordingly. For the body, because of all the angles, I keep it on a constant rotation like you can see right now instead of holding it and just looping it. Plus, it's really awkward to do that. My arms aren't long enough. Personally, if you got long arms, let me know. I want to see. When you get to the bolt, here's a good moment, just like we did in the strapping tape land. I would cut it, just because it's going to keep pulling and twisting and you can make a new line, make it look nice. So, line up how you want it to be with what already existed, and then all this overage, I just kind of collapse inside. Once the bolt is on, no one's the wiser. And then keep going. Going through the under part of the bolt is pretty quick. The angle doesn't really change. So once you get a good rhythm, just rotate and pull. Apologize for my nose. I thought I would not have any sinus issues right now. All right, we're at the end of the bolt. So as you can see, the angle, it's gonna start pulling back toward the left. Just don't let it. But actually, that's a good point. What if we just cut? No big deal, right? So now you can start another line, let it roll up inside. Again, I like the illusion of you can't see where the tape starts. So I pulled it to the left so it'll be underneath the bolt. From here, all these angles are gonna pull the tape in any number of ways. So just cover up the previous part by about 1/4 of the tape or half, depending on what you want. And then just pull all the way down. When you get to the end of this part, it is going to be flat, vertical on one side, and it's going to be angled on the other. So rotate the gun, pull accordingly. It's taking a bath. Pull accordingly so you get a nice good vertical line on both sides of the gun. I'll show you here in a second. All right, so my right flat is nice and vertical, but if you look at my inverse, it's headed over to the right. So what I'm gonna do now that I've covered all the strapping tape, I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a tug and check the verticality of it as I loop around one last time. Looks good, and give it a nice good cut. Same as before, index finger, middle of the bolt, roughly, we're good. It can be anywhere in the middle of the bolt. That's gonna be your balance point, so you know that the gun is spinning correct on both sides. And it will have a tendency to droop and dip from time to time, but again, your index finger, you should be able to move it and find a balance point. Somewhere in the middle, you're okay. All right, a lot of different things you could do here. I like to put the bolt on. It's quick and it secures all this tape. I've got my 2 screws with it. Again, if you do not have the screws, if they were stripped or something, before you do all this tape, that's where you would put the toothpick in, just so it puts a little more surface area for the screw to connect and hook on with. If you wanted to give it a little more extra oomph, I would use wood glue. That you're gonna want to put together and then let it set for 24 hours. Otherwise, it could strip and you don't want it to, you don't have to fix it again, right? So use wood glue, a toothpick, screw it in with a drill, and 24 hours of patience, and then you can have fun. I always push these down in just a little bit to make sure I get past the tape and start the screw. If you, you can't, doesn't matter. It just gives the grooves for the drill, gives the grooves of the screw into the wood, quick access, so when we do the drill, it goes right in. Lost my words there for a second. And as you can tell, the screw is a little stripped, so I'm gonna have to come back to that one. Well, never hurt. Cool. I always check it. Always do a check-in with the balance point. Never hurts. All right, so let's talk about the strap. Typically, straps are black. They could be any number of colors. I like these little screws right here on the strap that you can move and adjust. Mine's already adjusted, so it's nice and taut. If it's too loose, move to the next notch. If you don't have any more notches, create one. You can easily take this guy and just roughly measure it out, press hard and hit the drill, and it'll create an opening for you. Then you just have to push it through, okay? There really is no right or wrong way to do this. I can't remember which way. Oh, yes. Ah, I remember now. You want the longer side of the notches to be on the barrel, okay? The one that's more solid, that's gonna be hitting your neck, so when you go in for your catch, it has a nice good whoosh, and the air doesn't escape through the holes, okay? So this is where I use my black tape. Once you've got your notches set, give them a good circle, about 3-4 times roughly. There's no science to that. Yep. But it just covers them up and makes sure those aren't gonna fall off. They do have a tendency, if they get hit a lot, that they will unravel and they will unscrew themselves, so this just protects them. Yeah, 3 times around, and then this guy, I don't mind just pulling. You're gonna push it underneath, nice and flush, blends in, and it will not, as you can see, wear and tear too much on the underside of your barrel and the butt of the gun, as is already evident. Sweet. All right, I'm gonna do the butt side first. So go back and use your drill. Take that screw out. Doing it quickly, you're still gonna see the indentation of where it is. So replace, push that back down inside and secure it. All right, with enough pressure when you do that, the swivel has a tendency to rotate. Just pull it back. You can use the strap. And now here is where different instructors ask different things. Some say tape the whole thing. Some say tape just this little swivel part. Some say tape the clip. There is no right or wrong answer. Because I take a strip about 2-3 inches and I just cover where the screw was twice. So I'm gonna cover that part up and then take one more and do it just past toward the edge of the butt. And all of that swivel silver screw connection is completely covered, but the actual, like, that part, this clip, like we like to call, is open and free. Again, some people like to tape that to the butt, perfectly fine. That's not my thing, so this is how I've done it. There's a lot of different options here. Use what works for you or what's been asked of you. And then come back up to the barrel, same thing. Pull the screw out. I used to always say, make it quick. You can do it in like 5 minutes, but slow and steady wins the race, just to make sure that's really secure in there. You'll feel it. Once it kind of clicks a few times, you're good to go. So just like before, I'm gonna do this in one strip now. 1, 2, and cut it in half. If I can find the halfway mark. Sweet. And again, do a check-in. Go underneath the bolt. Don't hold the strap. You don't need to. Just underneath the barrel. And in this little divot in the bolt, somewhere in there should be your balance point. If it's too close to the barrel, it's butt heavy, and vice versa. This one looks good. And we're good to do the last little part. So once you find the balance point, if you are wanting or needing or have been requested to have some type of a spotter, the spotter typically goes, if you were holding it at a right flat, it would go toward you underneath your balance point. I like not using black or white. That's just a personal preference. I'm gonna use green for my rifle because I like to use blue for my saber. It just is. Get a strip that's about 2-3 inches long. There's no science here. But take your index finger, go underneath the middle of the bolt, find your balance point where the barrel is flat. And right here, that is the middle of my tape. And so it's just a quick little, not exact science, on the white part. The middle of that green tape is where my balance point is. And I'm actually gonna flip it around so you can see. It might flex a little bit, but that'll give us something to spot in the air when we're watching rotations and whatnot as it's rotating. That'll help find something to keep your eye on, and you're not watching the tip or the butt and the fan blade that is, because that's scary, but this will give you a little access point. And there you have it. You got a completed rifle. Enjoy. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope there is some information in there for you. Let me know in the comments if you liked it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Good luck.